Cinners. I'm Shannon.
And I'm Sean.
And this is Sinful Cuts.
Woohoo! Folk horror! Here we go!
Yeah, the last one of the month, right? Of the folk horror month before we begin our next genre.
Yeah, no, this is the last one. We're gonna have some fun with Clay McLeod Chapman tomorrow. We're gonna record an episode on a made-for-TV movie called Bad Ronald, which definitely is not folk horror, but it is a walking, talking banana split sundae in movie form. So we're gonna throw that at the Cinners for the end of the month, and that's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it'd be good, like fun little intermission episode. I like it.
A sorbet to cleanse your palate of folk horror.
Before we transition into the next genre. I like it.
I'll see myself out.
Yeah. No, wait, I can't do this episode by myself.
Oh, you can easily do this episode. You can do this whole podcast by yourself. What are you, nuts? And most of our listeners
not true
would like that.
No, not true. Not true. Don't listen to him, Sinners.
With Sinners, I'm not going anywhere. I'll fight you all. Every episode I have to threaten to fight people. And I would never
have to fight somebody.
I would never, ever fight. Ever. All right. So, Sinners, before I cartwheel this into the stratosphere, as always, I guess we'll announce the movie we're doing. We're doing Witchfinder General.
Yeah, I guess we should do that.
Right? How great would it be if we just got 45 minutes in and then we're just like, oh yeah, we're doing Witchfinder General. So this is part of the trifecta, the unholy trinity of folk horror, which is The Wicker Man, which we've done with Emily Hughes and had such a great time. You know what, Shannon, I'll make this awkward for Emily if she's listening right now. I miss her and I want to have her back so soon.
She was such a delight.
Oh, we had such a blast with her. So we did The Wicker Man, and then we are doing Witchfinder General, and then and then Blood on Satan's Claw, which we're not going to get into for Folk Horror Month, but that Blood on Satan's Claw will pop up in some form later on down the road, I'm sure. But those are yeah, right. We'll squeeze it. We'll squeeze it in there. But that, we want to talk about Witchfinder General. I told Shannon before we really get into it, Shannon's going to handle all of the truly historical, yikes, witch torture. So Shannon's going to talk about that in a moment. But what I wanted to do was just take a beat and just talk about the year this movie came out, which was 1968, because it's just, 68. As far as movies are concerned, and history and music, it's just the pot's boiling over, so to speak. So just from a historical perspective, 68 saw the assassination of Martin Luther King and Bobby Kennedy. We had the Tet Offensive in Vietnam. Vietnam was just like, at its apex, which is, horrific in its own right. You had Nixon winning the White House. So politically, there was all sorts of stuff going on in the country. You had at the Chicago Olympics, you had the Black Power salute. So there was a lot of stuff going on socially. There was a lot of stuff going on politically. And I think that is reflected in the movies that we get in 68. You could tie a lot of the political and the social of what's going on in 68 to Witchfinder General. There's a lot of aspects of power run amok, and unease across the land. And it's just interesting, you see it. You absolutely see it. Just for historical sake, the number one song in the country in 68 was Hey Jude by the Beatles. And then
great song.
Yeah, right. So as far as movies went, I'm fairly obsessed with 68 because as far as cinema goes, because I feel like it's a real tipping point from the big studio productions that we were getting, these lavish studio movies they're great in their own right. Who doesn't love a big lavish studio movie? They're so fun to watch. They're very much backlot movies, set movies. And 68, we start like I said, tipping over into more of a natural cinema. You've got Rosemary's Baby, Roman Polanski's Rosemary's Baby comes out that year. Let me say baby 8 more times. Yeah.
This is the remix version, Cinners. The remix version.
Baby. Baby. Oh my God. We can tie this into our Barbarian episode. Baby. Baby. Why do you let me talk on the podcast? Why do you let me talk? All right. We had just to name a couple of films that really demonstrate like what direction cinema was going at the time. So you've got Rosemary's Baby, which I mentioned. You've got 2001. So you've got Kubrick's 2001, just splitting people's heads right down the middle and really opening up a completely new direction for film. You've got
Yeah, it was fucking bonkers.
Right? Oh, you want to talk about
so bonkers?
Bonkers. How about Barbarella? How about Jane Fonda in Barbarella? Now sci-fi is getting like a little kinky, and we're all enjoying that. We're all signing up for that.
It was a time.
You want to talk about a time? All right, this is for you. How about this? How about Night of the Living Dead comes out in '68? So like we're leaving that big lavish studio production behind, and then we're just kind of like tiptoeing into what would become the incredible the incredible cinema experience of the early 70s, pretty much all of the 70s, with Coppola and De Palma and Scorsese, and Romero in his own right. I mean, we really start to get the thinking outside the box and just actually burning the box to the ground with film, and it's such an exciting time. And I feel like Witchfinder General, just to bring it back around, I think Witchfinder General demonstrates a lot of this, because we have a Hammer aesthetic as far as the time period goes and the costuming, and just the theme of like, okay, Witchfinder General, this could easily be a Hammer horror starring Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, but that is not the direction Michael Reeves goes. I mean, we get a lot of outdoor filming, a very natural approach to what was going on, which makes it so horrific, and a really different experience, and an exciting and almost like I think it as far as American audience, I'm sorry, as far as the UK audiences went, this was regarded as the like most sadistic movie after Peeping Tom, which ruined Michael Powell's career. I mean, Michael Reeves, unfortunately, I don't want to step on your toes, because I know you want to talk about Michael Reeves, but he didn't get a chance to have his career ruined, unfortunately, but we'll get to that a little bit later on. So that's my 68 in a nutshell. I'm going to pass it over to you now, Shannon, just to give us some of that horrific history of the time of the Witchfinders. So let me shut my yapper.
Yeah. It's okay. So let me actually I'm going to read the plot really fast for our sinners who've never seen this movie.
Sure.
And then I'll kind of dive into who the main character was and like who he was in real life.
Cool.
So the plot, because obviously we had to create a story to create this movie. So the plot itself is a young soldier seeks to put an end to the evils caused by a vicious witch hunter when the latter terrorizes his fiancée and kills her uncle. So obviously, Reeves creates like a personalized version of the story. But what really happened was that this is played by Vincent Price. His name is Matthew Hopkins, the main figure, and he took it upon himself in basically 1640s. This is the time in England when they were doing the Civil War, when they were in the middle of a civil war. So this is between, the king or parliament. And with that being said, it, a lot of people were not around. So that included judges, that included law enforcement. And, so what kind of happens, at that time? So he, at some point, it's never really clear exactly how. I think he probably just read a book. But when Matthew Hopkins, because the interesting thing too that people like to point out is that Vincent Price. So this was his 75th film, I think, give or take. So he obviously was not a young man at the time. Where Matthew Hopkins, this lasted probably about 2 years. He was like 19 to 21 years old.
Yeah, he was a
According
much
to
younger man. Yeah.
according to the history books. But he traveled along like Essex, Suffolk, Norfolk, and Huntington, like in that area, and just kept traveling up. And would just go to villages, claim. I'm sorry, I skipped a part. He ended up getting into like reading a book about the witchcraft and the hypocrisy and things like that. So he started blaming bad things. I think it probably started with like a personal thing. We're assuming anyway. Again, that's not really clear in the
But
history books.
if you trace
well,
abuse of power back, it usually does always end up with something personal that someone just can't shake, So they
like
decide on genocide.
basically like his crops weren't doing good or something. So he ended up blaming it on a witch. So he just took it upon himself to start, like, oh, let me be, the figure to put these, put this evil to where it belongs, back to Satan's lair, whatever.
Yeah.
But but that's what he would do. He, acquired a henchman named John Stern, who I think I'm pretty sure, according to history, they literally just had a beer in a bar together. And Hopkins was like, "Yeah, I'm going on this journey to hunt down these witches," and John Stern was like, "Well, I'm not doing anything."
Yeah.
I'm assuming, at least that's how I see it.
No, you're right.
How I play it out.
Two weirdos with a penchant for torture who also were grifters. They just traveled the land, taking coin off people, looking around and going, she's a witch and that guy's a witch. I mean,
yeah, not a lot. Not a lot was known prior to that. Like, I think he was a lawyer, so I guess he could talk a good talk,
Yeah.
So you say anything with confidence, anybody will believe you, right? So they set on this inquisition. They set on this journey and start, traveling village to village. And people, the crazy part is that some people would actually just either come out and confess, or they would start pointing fingers at people, again, because, crops were bad, or freaking, whatever. My husband's been missing because of the war, whatever. Yeah. So they started methods of inquisition, and it was basically actual fucking torture. Like, if you basically had the finger pointed at you, I didn't really see any way out of it. Like, okay, let's have her sit on a stool for 24 plus hours, and like no eating, no drinking, no sleeping. Like, are you going to be the same? Like, do you expect like a person to actually just sit there?
Shit. My favorite is, we're going to throw you in the pond. If you float, that is Satan intervening and you are a witch. If you drown, you are also a witch. And
yeah, with this and the same thing with like they had like they called it, I think they called it pricking, where it was like they would look for like the moles or warts on a person's body, like natural things that develop on a human person's body, especially in the elderly folk.
Yeah.
And basically, so I think like with a wart, if you prick a wart, it doesn't bleed, I think. So they were like, oh, she's not bleeding, so therefore like Satan is stopping her bleeding or something like what? What are you talking about?
I'm gonna just
but this guy, I don't know.
Well, I was just gonna add to it that
it was definitely a time.
I Cinners, I grew up Catholic, and I will say that I was in third grade. I'm left-handed. I was in third grade, and I took such a savage beating because the nuns were trying to make me write with my right hand, because the left hand is the devil's hand. Sweet. That's my right hand. Sorry, sweet. But I'm like, wasn't that long ago that I was catching beatings? I suppose it was, they thought they were doing it for my own good. I mean, I guess I should be thankful that I wasn't, thrown in the pond. But like, it's not that long ago that this crazy horse shit was going on in some form. Fuck you! Fuck you're beating a child. Sorry, I'm turning this into a therapy session. But I mean, it's crazy. It's so crazy.
It's insanity. It was
Yeah.
utter insanity. Like
Yeah.
nobody and people like didn't have like anything better to do.
But it's it's like you said, power run amok. There were no checks and balances.
Yeah.
These two homicidal maniacs were just roaming the land on basically what amounts to like a thrill kill joyride via horseback.
People.
Yeah. Boy, oh boy.
I know. It was so it took 2 years for Parliament to basically go they caught on with what this guy was doing, and they finally started like sending messages to villages nearby saying, hey, just so you know, this guy is not governed by this.
Yeah, we didn't
or at all.
We didn't send this guy to you.
How many credentials does he have? None. No credentials. So finally he just kind of got phased out that way, where they were like, oh, go away, you're a fake or whatever, like you have no authority here. So he just eventually just quietly went back home, and I've heard 2 different versions. I heard he passed away only a few years later, like he was probably like 25 years old.
Yeah, he died of
other versions, some people say tuberculosis. So I could be either one, could be both. I don't know. He deserved both. He deserved both.
Oh no, yeah. I hope it was long and painful. Matthew Hopkins, you epic prick. So consumption and tuberculosis are basically the same thing. So yeah, I just I hope it was super painful. And what happened to Stern?
They just separated, and he just like nothing was. He probably died in a bar. You know, like if he just went back to being a bar life. Like I don't think anything is really known about him after that. Because again, they were just like phased out, and nobody paid attention to them ever again.
So crazy.
So wasn't worth writing in the history books for, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's technically the story of Matthew Hopkins in a nutshell, and so I do think in the movie version, I think he was portrayed pretty great in a different light and different way.
Well, you know how I feel about Vincent Price.
Well, exactly. There's that, and the ending of this is great too.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I won't skip to that. So, but that's pretty much the history of Matthew Hopkins.
Cool. So you know what? Let's do the hard yards. Let me take us into the production itself. So we have 1968 Witchfinder General, directed by Michael Reeves. We'll get into him in a moment because he's an interesting fella.
Yes, he is.
We've got the screenplay by Reeves and Tom Baker, based off the novel Witchfinder General by Ronald Bassett, which was released in 66. So Tony Tenser, who is the founder of Tygon British Films, he gets a galley of this book, and he's like, this is imminently filmable, and it's a really interesting story. So he buys the rights, he secures the rights. Reeves becomes involved. Him and Tom Baker bang out the script. Now, just to give you an idea of what was going on at the time, they wanted this movie. They had to do this movie on the quick because there was a strike looming. So they had to get, Reeves and Baker did not have a lot of time. They did a great job on the script for the time that they had. But this was really like, you're hired, let's go, and let's get moving, So because of that, just to give you a little background on like the filming, they filmed it in an airplane hangar. A lot of the interior scenes were filmed in an airplane hangar. There's a ton of beautiful, gorgeous outdoor cinematography. But because they shot the interiors in the airport hangar, you'll notice when you watch the film that there's an incredible amount of dubbing that had to be done because the airplane hangar had a tin roof. So it just echoed back and forth. They couldn't use any of the interior sound. So
I don't think I caught that.
You could
I
see
didn't catch that. I don't think the first time
because it's the original. They're their own actors doing the ADR. It doesn't. They can get away with it. So it's not like Vincent Price is being dubbed by some guy from I don't know Arkansas.
Oh my god, could you imagine?
It'd be kind of cool. Yeah, it'd be funny. It'd definitely be funny. But so, just to give credit to the cinematographer, because this is an interesting gentleman, John Coquelin, and he did such an incredible job that he caught the eye of Sam Peckinpah, who then used him for films going forward. So if you're into Sam Peckinpah like I am, there's so much incredible natural cinematography, outdoor cinematography that he uses because he's shooting a lot of westerns. But they're gorgeous. They're absolutely gorgeous. So this guy, I mean, he leaves it up there on the screen. And then you have, like I said, you have Vincent Price as Matthew Hopkins. You had Ian Ogilvy, who played Richard Marshall, and Reeves and Ogilvy were buddies. Ogilvy is actually in every single one of the three projects that Reeves had done. But why? Do you want to tell us a little bit about Reeves so we can just clue the sinners in on what happened and why they don't have other Reeves movies to see?
Yeah, so he's known for I mean he did like quick like short films or straight to TV things, but he's known for obviously this film Witchfinder General, which is 1968. Before that, this was his last one, right? So he did She Beast in 1966 and The Sorcerers in 1967.
Yeah.
So when I was looking at the behind the scenes, and they always said that Reeves was always like, they say like he, like some people just kind of get into the film industry and eventually want to direct. They were like, this guy popped out infancy, I want to direct films. So apparently it was something that he put out there, and what he accomplished and who he got to speak to in a very short amount of time. I mean, it was very impressive.
Right?
Yeah, I would think so. But they said like he totally had a knack for it, and he was definitely they feel that we were all robbed of him.
I agree.
Way too soon. Yeah, so unfortunately he did pass away. I think he was like 24 or 25 years old. He passed away of an overdose. He definitely had his own personal struggles.
Yeah.
Which could have, because he wasn't probably always like the nicest person, I guess. He was
not an actor's director. We'll get into it, but
no,
he was very much a technician, and yeah.
I know the most infamous thing about this movie is the fact that him and Vincent Price did not get along. And actually let me rephrase that. He did not like Vincent Price and made it very known.
He
known to Vincent Price himself.
Yeah, he wrote the part for Donald Pleasence. Donald Pleasence was supposed to play Matthew Hopkins, and the portrayal was supposed to be Matthew Hopkins is a rather inept person, and is kind of just, falling ass backwards into these situations that aren't really of his own making, because he is kind of like a bumbling idiot. And Donald Pleasence could have played the hell out of that. What happens is,
I agree.
So, taking British pictures, they don't have enough scratch. So they reach out to American International Pictures, and Roger Corman, I believe they gave him $32,000 to complete the film. So it's a co-production. And because American International Pictures, AIP, is involved now, they say, hey, look, you know what? One of the stipulations is that we're not going to do Donald Pleasence. You got to use our contract player, who is Vincent Price, who had done all of the Edgar Allan Poe movies and so many AIP pictures, of which I love all of them. So Reeves gets his nose bent out of shape. I suppose, to be fair, rightfully so, because what kind of creative person who has a vision enjoys the fact that they're told, you can't have your person, you have to have this person? Of course, it's going to rub them the wrong way. Now, that's as far as I'll go as far as like defending Matthew Reeves, because that's a tough pill to swallow. But he handled it horribly, because Price shows up on set, and to your point, he tells him to his face, I didn't want you, I didn't choose you, but I'm stuck with you. Now, Price, because as I'm doing research for this, it's not like Price showed up on set and he's like, wait, what do you mean he doesn't want me here? Price had heard that Matthew Reeves didn't want him weeks ago, before he even left the States. And I was not aware of this, but it turns out that a show of good faith or a courtesy is that your director will come and meet the lead actor at the airport. Back then, I suppose. I don't know if that's happening now. Shannon and I are waiting to become big movie stars. We'll find out soon.
We'll find out soon
Oh
enough.
yeah, we'll find out soon enough. I mean, we'll be met at the airport, right?
We're gonna be left at the airport.
Oh my God, they're gonna send us 2 bus tickets. We're not getting a plane. What are you, nuts? So, no, it's gonna be a tandem bicycle with a Rand McNally taped to the handlebars. Good luck, you two. So Price steps off the plane thinking that Matthew Reeves is at least going to give the courtesy of meeting him at the airport, and maybe they could kind of put this behind them and be bygones, and all right, let's put on a good show. And Reeves, of course, doesn't show up, and he sends I think he sends his first unit director, and then Price demands to go immediately to set, and he's like, all right, let's meet this boy genius and see what this is all about. So it's already a contentious production. And then Reeves, who is, admittedly, he's like, look, I'm not an actor's director. I don't want to be bothered with that. He kind of dialed up the rudeness to Price. Now, this is all apocryphal. I think maybe people are throwing a little cover for Reeves, that he was doing it to get the best performance out of Vincent Price that he could. Maybe, I personally,
some people might have said that maybe in defense of him, maybe because he died so young, and to be fair, but I don't know, Price is great in it,
and to Price's credit, he does come back around while Reeves is alive, not after his death. He does come back around after the film is released, and he writes him a 10-page letter where he says, I understand now what you were going for. This is one of the best you got one of the best performances out of me, which I've ever given, which is correct. And then of course Reeves is like, yeah, I know. So it's like,
it's like,
yeah, but Vincent Price is a gentleman, and he did write that letter, and after Reeves' passing, he did tell anyone and everyone he got a great performance out of me, and he was a true master of the craft, and it's a shame that we lost him so early. So Vincent Price, when aren't I kissing his face? But
yeah,
you kind of love to hear those stories.
You do, absolutely. Yeah, so kisses all over his face.
So let's bang out the movie. Let's bang out this crazy some bitch bad time.
Yeah, seriously. So I don't even know where to begin, because I really enjoyed that they made it into a personal story. So that was that Hilary Dwyer, who played Sarah?
Yep,
right. She was the main love interest. So she's so pretty, so beautiful.
They filmed the hell out of her. Gorgeous.
Yeah,
gorgeous.
She's gorgeous.
Yeah,
and she absolutely poured herself in that role, in many tortured variations, right? Whatchamacallit. So when the witch hunter comes and basically accuses her uncle, or the villagers accuse her uncle for some fucking reason. I don't know. I didn't understand that part, but I was like, whatever.
Neither did I. No, they just really were like, you come here, and then 15 stabs later, and you're in the dungeon.
He was a priest.
I know.
So I don't know what their gripe was with him, but either way, they point immediately to him, and I could barely even watch the scenes. Even though it's granted it's the 1960s, but the pricking part was just just torturous to me. And then they did this thing where they try to do overly exerting, and why am I making my words so hard? They're overly exerting
that's my job.
Exercise.
You're like, they are making him climb a trestle. He's going up the trestle.
So then they make him run around, thinking that overlay exercises, they could just go on forever. If he gets tired, that's the devil's work or something. What are you talking? What?
If you get tired, it's the devil's
So
work. If you
yeah.
get thirsty, it's the devil's work. If you fall down, it's the devil's work. You're like, come on. What isn't the devil's work? Like, is there any ability for me to escape this thing?
Yeah, seriously. I wonder if anybody tried accusing him of being a witch.
Seems like the son of a bitch got away with murder, literally, until consumption, grabbed his ass, and that was the end of that. But
Yeah.
Once the government got involved and was like, yeah, this isn't our guy. It seems like he just kind of, like you said, he quietly went back to London and, but still got away with hundreds of murders. Literally.
In a way, yeah.
He
did. I mean, granted, there was a lot of people, luckily, like hundreds of people that once they found out that this was happening, they did give these people a retrial. And a lot of them were free to let go. Like it wasn't. Don't get me wrong. Granted, I think definitely over 100 people definitely did lose their lives at the hands of this one man.
Could you imagine though, Shannon?
There were many others.
Could you imagine you get retried and they're like, Bert, we're sorry. Turns out it was the hiccups. You're free to go. And you're like, thanks. Can I have my arm back now? I mean, You ever think about
is my land still there, sir?
How long do you think you and I would have lasted back in those times?
Oh, I would absolutely be the girl on the ladder getting lowered into
barbecue.
The
fire. This movie really did. It shocked the hell out of the movie going audience. And the censors had a field day with this. Now, the funny thing is, this movie is released through American International Pictures as a double bill, which I think I wrote it down because I just love the title of it. It was released with The Young, the Evil, and the Savage. What a title. And did it have any sort of impact or censorship whatsoever in the States? None at all.
No, we'll get into that though, because I have to read my notes verbatim. You'll get a kick out of it, but we'll get to that. But so let's go over some of the scenes because that's, as torturous as that was, that I think that lowering ladder scene was probably my favorite. So Cinners, if I could try to paint the picture for those of you who haven't seen this film. So obviously they start this huge bonfire or whatever, throw whatever spigots and wheels and whatever in it, and they just get this woman on the top of a ladder, tie her up, and then they slowly, I guess they do like a levee system, whatever, however you want to call it, a fulcrum momentum system, and they just slowly lower her down. And just what a shot though. It was filmed so good.
Again,
she's screaming the whole fucking time. And you're just like, oh my God. It brought me back to Game of Thrones. Oh my God, with my God. Okay, the king that died, it was his brother who had the daughter who had grayscale.
Stannis.
When he sacrificed. Yes. Remember that? When he sacrificed his daughter, and it just ends with it's a close up of him, but you hear her screaming.
Yep.
Oh,
I know. Oh. Okay. All right, Cinners,
bring that up.
Everybody go back and rewatch Game of Thrones. It was so good. So good.
Clearly, I love torture.
Oh yeah. Well, don't we all? I mean, you wouldn't be listening to this podcast if you didn't love torture. This The torture scenes in this movie, they are, they're shot incredibly well, but they are troubling. This movie's not a good hang. I'll just come out and say it. Should sinners seek this movie out and see it? Absolutely. I mean, as one of the trifecta of the folk horror, movement in the late 60s, early 70s. Yeah, you got to see this movie for sure. But it'll stay with you. It will definitely stay with you. So basically what we have is, in my opinion, and Shannon, I'm interested to see if you'll agree or disagree. What we basically have after the rape of Sarah and the murder of her uncle, the priest, is essentially a Western. You know, it's
Yeah.
a man on a mission of revenge who will stop at nothing, and along the way, because of the myopic, obsession with revenge, loses their humanity, which is very much present at the end. When spoiler alert after I tell you all to watch the movie, but we spoil everything here, so shut this off, watch the movie, and then don't forget to come back
And come back.
um
Yeah.
when Vincent Price, when Matthew Hopkins is killed at the end, and he is killed, I mean, he is capital K killed at the end.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He is just brutally axed to death. And then two of the what do they call them? The Roundheads, the soldiers. One of them,
Roundheads, yeah.
One of them actually does
Troopers,
have a moment of compassion and shoots Matthew Hopkins dead. I mean, trust me, Sinners, Matthew Hopkins was hella dead already, but he does shoot him
via axe.
and then you have you've got oh my god, what was Richard Marshall. You have Richard screaming, "You took him from me! You took him from me!" He's like, he wants to kill Matthew Hopkins forever. And then Sarah, who is about to be horrifically tortured, and let's be honest, Sarah, who has been tortured already and raped, and I mean, just like the trauma that this poor woman has gone through, for nothing, for literally nothing other than being in the wrong place at the wrong time, and that's it, and here's like, okay, so they have their revenge. Richard has his revenge on Matthew Hopkins at the end, but it's very apparent that these two people are destroyed. There is no happy ending. The movie literally ends with Sarah screaming as Richard is essentially going mad, and it's just like, this movie was such a bummer, and yet so good.
Well, they did. So supposedly they did play with the idea of like a happy ending, and just they travel off into the sunset or whatever. I'm assuming is how they probably would have dealt with it. But Reeves was like, no.
Not after what both Sarah, especially Sarah, not after what Sarah's gone through, and Richard, and Richard as well. To have them right off into the sunset, it would have felt so hollow and not genuine whatsoever. This movie had to end this way.
Yeah. I think it would have felt fake. Absolutely. Just like, I don't know.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot because I love to do it and I enjoy it so much. Okay. Give me, if you can, give me a watch along with this movie. What movie has the same sort of like downer vibe, but yet is so good that you just can't you can't look away. Like, you love it. I mean,
oh, okay. Well, does it have to be folk?
No, not at all.
Just that ending.
Give me a vibe. Just whatever comes to top of mind. 7. Oh, Floyd. Oh, you are getting so many high fives right now. I mean, how do I even?
Because that's the first one that pops into my head that I like. It just ends, and you're like, oh.
Yeah. Oh, you. I can't play my own game. You won the game. I can't play my own game. You won the game. Oh, yay! My goodness. Yeah, I can't even come within a country mile of that vibe. That's so good. Oh, that is so good. Okay, so there you have it, Sinners. If you really want to make yourself sad on a rainy day, watch Witchfinder General and then immediately roll into 7. Oh my god.
Yeah, goodness. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
Oh my, I love it. All right, so all right, you win. You, like I said, you win. All right, so yay. So we have the movie. The movie does get released, and unfortunately, we do have Matthew Reeves passes away not long after. It does really make an impact in the UK as Naughty Naughty don't go see this movie, and the censors are just pounce all over it. But to his credit, Reeves stands his ground. He does have to make some essential cuts, but for the most part, what we get is 100%, almost 100% his vision, and he doesn't change the ending. He sticks to his guns, and yeah, and then it does go on to really. It didn't blow the doors off cinema at the time, but sadly, because of Michael Reeves passing shortly after, it did garner a reputation of you have to see his final, and that is what motivated people to go see it, and then it starts to gather its reputation that it has today as a true folk horror classic, if not just a cinema classic. I mean, it's just incredibly good movie making up there on the screen.
Yeah, it's
Do you mind?
filmed really, really well.
Do you mind talking about what happened in America when it came out?
So, this is what I wanted to read verbatim. So, okay, so you find out, Americans find out about this movie, the new Vincent Price movie, if you will. So, because he just came from the string of making all those Edgar Allan Poe films, so if you look it up over here, which, I mean, granted, thanks to the internet, I mean, it comes up as both. But I remember when I first looked into this movie, it was actually a couple of years ago, and I didn't watch it then because I was so confused.
Right.
But it kept coming up as the Conqueror Worm.
So I thought there were two different movies.
So did I. And then when I kept IMDbing it kept rerouting me, and I'm like, what is happening? Like, so I didn't get it. Then I found out it was a stupid marketing ploy. I wrote down verbatim, bad choice. because it just confused the shit out of everybody. It's so the Conqueror Worm. Yes, clearly it confused me. But the Conqueror Worm Cinners, so that's one of an Edgar Allan Poe story. Except this has nothing to do with Edgar Allan Poe or that story.
Nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with Poe at all. But this is quintessential Roger Corman, and I do love it. I do love it. He's just like Conqueror Worm, Poe. Yeah, I know the movie has nothing to do with it, but we got Vincent Price in it, and we'll make a buck.
So there's something else. I'm so stupid. There's something else I want to talk about, and I actually wrote down also a bad choice. but I found this to be really interesting. So when the video version in America also came out,
okay,
they changed the whole music. So the composer for the original film, the actual composer that we hear, right? You're gonna like this. You're gonna love this. So that was Paul Ferris. Okay,
and that music is very good.
It's beautiful,
right?
It's absolutely beautiful. So yeah, I'm sure, like, if you watch it, like I watched it on YouTube, or Tubi, one of the tubes.
Yeah, one of the two. We love you, Tubi.
And it definitely wasn't the music that they described. So like when it came to America, the video version, it was like a synth.
How stupid! Oh my god,
this is right, so dumb. And here's the thing too: Paul Ferris is in the movie.
Get out.
Okay. So my favorite scene with the woman with the lowering of the ladder, the blah blah blah, her husband.
No, that's him.
That's Paul Ferris. So imagine Mr. Ferris walking around going, "Yeah, I was in the film actually, and I did the composure." And that's. I think he likes the song. I'm not making fun of you, Mr. Ferris.
Sinners. It was like Paul Ferris was in the room with me. What?
But then, but you pick up this fucking video version, and you're like, why would you go with synth? And he's like, that is, and then he's like, no,
he invites his friends over. He's like, you guys are gonna love the score that I did, and it's like, oh, poor Paul.
So
poor Paul. Oh, my new mouth is coming next week.
Words.
Get excited.
Words. But I found that really interesting. But I wrote down, also bad choice.
Yeah, two monumentally bad choices on the American side.
Yeah, God damn it, our country is so dumb sometimes.
Okay, all right, you're getting high five for that one too. Okay, I have to do this to you, only because you won that last game so quick and so easy. And it doesn't have to include this movie. You be fair now. Give me your top three Vincent Price performances. Give me your top three.
Okay, so I like. Oh my God, I often get confused sometimes with Hitchcock, and I don't know why. Like the titles, like not the actual films.
No, I could totally get that. Because all the titles are very dramatic.
Right. So I definitely like House on Haunted Hill. What else is there? What else? So I definitely like that. I kind of have to go with Edward Scissorhands because come on.
All right. No, I love it. I absolutely love it.
I get it's not like, he's not in it too much, but his like death scene in that, it scared the shit out of me.
And that's his final performance, right? I think that's possibly his final.
I think so.
How much do you love Tim Burton for doing that, though? How much do you love that?
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. He was perfect for that. Like, small role, but perfect. Fun facts, he was in The Great Mouse Detective, by the way, as Professor Ratigan.
Can't even tell you how much I love that fact. I did not know that, but that makes me so happy.
He was the villain in that that Disney film.
Oh, I love it.
So I'm trying to remember. So I'm actually looking up the movies right now, because there's definitely one that like I remember I loved, and Lord forgive me that I cannot remember the name of it right now.
Can I buy you some time by giving you my three?
Absolutely.
All right. So I am going to give honorable mention to House on Haunted Hill because I truly, truly love him in that. That is like, that is just like sexy, suave Vincent Price. And the movie is so much fun. And it's also like the best picture, the best shot of Vincent Price ever, the best still, where he's by that like cobwebby candelabra and he's kind of like leaning forward. I'll put it in the show notes and it'll probably be all over this episode. So that gets honorable mention though. But my absolute favorite Vincent Prices are Theater of Blood, the abominable Dr. Phibes, and I love him in that. Even though I mean it's a lot of prosthetics, but just his voice acting in that is great. Just hearing him say Volnavia, I just could listen to that on a loop forever. And then
I just remembered mine.
All right, let me hear it because I cut you off. So you finish your.
No, it's fine. It's at House of Wax.
Oh, you stole my card! Oh, that's
flew
good,
out of my head.
That's kismet. That's our third is the same one. He is so friggin' good in House of Wax. And then of course I will give another honorable mention. This is not a movie of Vincent Price, but it's such a huge part of my life, and it means so much to me. And that is when he did his guest starring spot on the Muppet Show, and he's talking to Kermit, and then Kermit turns into a vampire and bites Vincent Price on the neck, and then Vincent Price turns into a vampire. And I think I was like 9 years old, and I flew out the window. I was lighter than air. And if I'm ever feeling, I'm looking at I have a portrait of it that I'm looking at right now. And if I'm ever feeling down and I'm ever having a moment where like, fucking job or life is just too much, I just think of that moment on the Muppet Show and I'm immediately better.
What a great day to be alive that day.
Oh God. I mean, it's just like, Kermit turning into a vampire. They just can't get any better than that. And then have Vincent Price right
seriously.
there. Yeah.
I mean, come on.
So I took us from witch finding and torture to somehow landing on the Muppet Show circa 1979. But for the Simple Cuts podcast, it feels right.
It does feel right. Sinners, if you're tuning in right now, you really should go back and see how this whole started.
Right? So the overall message, movie good, witch finding bad, torture very bad.
Very bad.
And we love folk horror. we're buttoning up our folk horror month right now, and we're getting into some exciting. I'm not going to give it away, but April is, of course, a complete banger, and we're going to have so many good movies. But before we get to that, we are giving you the gift of Clay McLeod Chapman talking about the wackiest made-for-TV movie you're ever going to put your eyeballs on, and that is Bad Ronald. So
I really enjoyed that one. I can't wait to talk about it.
it's so frigging nuts. And yeah, it's just so nuts. And all I can think of while watching the movie is Ronald must smell so bad. So bad. But we'll get into it. We'll get into it with Clay.
We'll get into it. Yeah.
Exactly. So did you have anything else you wanted to add to our old Witchfinder?
I think I said all my stuff. Honestly, yeah, I think I'm good.
It's like we said, it's a solid film. If you're into horror, you really do you got to see it. And if you're into folk horror, I mean, there's no excuse. It's got to be part of your homework, happy homework. But yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, Shannon, but I really enjoyed Folk Horror Month. I really enjoyed the guests that we had as well. So
I did too.
Thank you to their incredible contribution to the podcast. Here's the part that I suck at. No, I'm not dragging Shannon down with me. I suck at this. Please follow us on Instagram, where you can find us at Simple Cuts, which is CINEFUL.CUTS. You can follow me.
Maybe, I don't know. You can find it.
You're freaking me out. You can find me at SeanOC32. That's SeanOC32. Please follow. And then on all of the platforms where you can listen to podcasts, and Cinners, I mean all of them. Please rate and review us. It helps us become better podcasters. And it also helps for us to find new listeners, which is the name of the game. We just want to broaden our listener base. We know that we're a nice little secret for all of you, but please share that secret to anyone who listens.
Let's all have a good time. Why not?
Exactly. I think, yeah, so spread the word. And I can't do anything until when she's contractually obligated to do every episode.
And that's a cut.
Oh, folk horror, witches. I don't know.